Okay, let's start. City Clerk?
Councilmember Agency Director Mann.
Present.
Marcus. Here. Cilio.
He is here.
Vice Mayor Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, Bishop Hearns will be giving the invocation.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. I'd like to just mention this as a part of the prayer tonight. There was a guy in the Bible known as Saul, and he asked God for wisdom. And he's, according to Scripture, is one of the wisest guys that during the Bible days. And so tonight I come to pray for your wisdom, each of you, and for your endurance for whatever comes before you tonight. That's our prayer. Father, we come to you tonight thanking you for this wonderful opportunity to be here in a place where we can call upon your name and not be ashamed nor afraid. We thank you for that. We thank you for these men and women who have opened their hearts and poured out their hearts to this community and says, we're willing to do it. And God, we thank you for that. We thank you for the staff that has been placed around them. And we thank you tonight that you will give them wisdom, you will give them understanding, and you will give them the patience and the endurance to carry on. So we pray this in the precious name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Cilio, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. City Manager, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Thank you. Any items on the agency consent calendar the council would like to have moved?
Move to adopt the agency calendar, consent calendar.
Second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Any items on the council calendar you'd like to have pulled for discussion?
Move to adopt the council consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Let's open the public hearing for PH1. We'll hear a staff report from Randy Williams.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, each year we come before you to recommend your adoption of a resolution for the Congestion Management Plan program, which is part of a program run by Metropolitan Transit Authority throughout the area. This evening is no different. The MTA has been working for about 4 years now to come up with a new system that would take care of congestion management issues. But nevertheless, the old system is still in place. Even though it's not used for any specific purpose, it's something that we have to do in order to continue to be eligible to receive gas tax subventions and other monies from the state and from the federal levels that would help us to improve the roads and streets in the city of Lancaster. So this evening we are bringing to you a resolution very similar to those brought in all prior years. This one is resolution number 08-79. If the council would adopt and approve this resolution, then we will forward this together with the congestion mitigation report that's attached to your agenda packet this evening to the MTA, and that will continue to place us in a position to receive those much-needed street improvement funds. If there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
There's
Thank you, Mr. Williams. No speaker cards?
No speakers cards.
Any communications to the city clerk?
No communications.
Okay, let's close the public hearing. Any discussion, motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 0879.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. public hearing on PH2.
Mr. Mayor, I have real property that is located within 500 feet of the downtown plan, so I'm going to be abstaining from this item. So I'll step out and let you conduct the public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Ludicky?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The issue that's before you this evening is the adoption of the City of Lancaster's downtown specific plan. This is a planning effort that was initiated originally by the council in 2005 and really represents a continuation of a pretty long-term effort that the city has undertaken for several decades in terms of revitalizing and renewing its downtown area. This particular plan is unique in that it relies on a number of approaches that we have not used before within the city. I think it's also unique because it represents a very high level of public engagement that was used in arriving at the final plan. I have a presentation that I'm going to go through with you that I think outlines a lot of this and describes pretty well what the downtown specific plan is and what it intends to achieve. We're going to go over the downtown Lancaster specific plan itself, the introduction to what's known as form-based codes, which is a key component of this plan, as well as how that plan and those form-based codes will be applied to development within the downtown area. The specific plan itself is broken into 6 chapters. They include introductions in relationship to the general plan. But as I've noted in the bold, Chapter 5, which is the form-based regulating code, is the key aspect of this plan. Form-based zoning is essentially a set of development regulations that are intended to create a specific urban form. And they differ from what the typical zoning ordinances that we're used to dealing with are, because they don't focus so much on use. They focus much more on the type of building environment that's created. An example, kind of graphically to show you this, is under conventional zoning, which is on the left, use and density concerns are the primary thing. But in a form-based code, while there are controls on use and density, the most important thing, as you see by the large square at the bottom right, is how the form of the buildings relate both to the public space around them and to each other to create a desired environment. We felt this was really the appropriate way to deal with our downtown area, which certainly has a very unique form given its history and its length of time that it's been in existence within our community. Conventional zoning tends to divide uses up into separate locations. That's certainly not something that you see within our downtown area and not something that we want to encourage. Conventional zoning, as I said, concerns itself with a lot of things that then regulate how that individual use is dealt with. Form-based codes, however, do not take that same approach. Conventional zoning is not a very good choice for an area like our downtown. For starters, it makes it very difficult and sometimes illegal to build the traditional types of mixed-use buildings and neighborhoods that our downtown represents. Things of this type that are what we heard from our community they would like to see in our downtown area are very difficult to do under a typical conventional zoning code. Zoning also creates a lack of certainty. There's no telling exactly what's going to get built with each one of the zoning classifications that are given. And as an example, I'll show you this. These are all multiple family apartments. They are all about the same density, but as you can tell, they range in style and look. You really don't want to do that within an area where you're trying to create a certain form and feel to the built environment. This is another example of how that uncertainty is done. All of these are office buildings. They all fit within an office designation, if you will, in a zoning code. But as you can see, they're all very different in the kind of feel and effect that they give. Conventional zoning also does a very poor job in some cases of dealing with density, height, and uses. It doesn't deal a lot with compatibility. And as an example, we've probably all seen examples like this. A single-family house next to an apartment complex. Interestingly, though, the density of this apartment complex is exactly the same as the density of that apartment complex. So once again, it's the design and the form that we're looking for within our downtown specific plan. And conventional zoning does very little to improve the design of what's known as the public realm, street and sidewalk areas. These are typical images that you see largely with suburban style zoning. Not a very pedestrian-friendly environment and some real difficulties with getting the kind of feel that we would like to have downtown. And finally, because of these issues that I've gone over, it results in a very confusing and time-consuming design review process for a builder, an architect, trying to figure out what exactly it is the community wants to see. Form-based zoning is different. It starts with a detailed vision for the neighborhood or district that it's going to be applied to. You create a regulating plan from that to make sure that that vision can be implemented. You include building form standards, and we'll go over that a little bit, to make sure that the physical form that you want is created. You include architectural standards to provide the kinds of feel and detail on those buildings that increase the quality of the area. And block, street, and public space standards are also included because in this kind of a district, how the streets and sidewalks relate to the buildings are also very important. This is exactly the approach we took in creating this specific plan. These are some pictures of the downtown immersion effort that we undertook in May of 2006. We had approximately 150 participants from the community over that 3-day period of time. And what they did through their work with us is they created an image, a vision of what they wanted the downtown to be. From that, we created graphics that divided the downtown area into various districts and a draft vision poster that incorporated what we felt, what we heard from community stakeholders, business owners, property owners, and members of the community. We took that back to them about 2 months later, and from that we refined a final vision for the downtown. That is the basis that we used for creating the regulating code. That regulating code contains within it the building standards and other things that I described to you earlier. Chapter 5 of the regulating code is that form-based code and that part of the plan that regulates how development will occur. And the way that you go through a form-based code is fairly straightforward. The first thing that you have to determine is which district of the downtown area you're in. And as you can see, there are contained within the downtown area 7 different districts, because we found from our community that they tended to view the downtown in different ways depending what sections they were in. The second thing is that you determine what kind of land use and permitting requirements are included. And as I said, form-based codes don't spend the same length of time on this that conventional zoning does. This is essentially the use section of the form-based code. It's a one-sheet matrix with some explanatory notes, because once again, use is not as important as the building form itself. The third thing, they would go through and review the types of building plans that are allowed. I apologize, this isn't the clearest slide, but this does illustrate the types of buildings that are allowed. And very briefly, it also includes illustrations for people so they understand the type of building that's being described. So you see it not only in a drawn isometric form, you have actual pictures that show, oh, okay, that's the type of building type that we're looking at in how it's described. The final, or the fourth step, they would review the regulating plan. That regulating plan indicates the district location, the types of buildings that are allowed. They would then go through the development specifications, which is this one-page sheet that describes where that building has to be located, where the parking would be, the types of roof forms that are allowed, and so forth. Oops. Like any good code, this one also has exceptions, recognizing that there may be circumstances where someone's proposing to do something that is within the intent of the plan, but may not meet all of the exact requirements. This does provide an exception section so that somebody whose plan meets the intent of what we're looking at downtown can still receive an approval through the reviewing process. And step 6, they would look at the heights that are allowed. We've modified this somewhat, but this is a map showing what the height limits are within the proposed plan. And they range from pretty high and intense up to 5 stories along the major streets, and they step down as you get towards the residential area, particularly south of downtown. And we did this to ensure that as the buildings are developed, they fit well from a design standpoint into the existing neighborhood. Finally, they would look at the design regulations and guidelines and include those as a part of it. And once again, a lot of illustrations so that people understand what we're looking for within our downtown area. I'm going to close with an example of how this form-based code would be applied. We're taking a site within the downtown. This is actually already developed. However, if it were to be vacant, or if the owner were to decide that they wanted to do another development on the site, this happens to be the northwest corner of Elm and Lancaster Boulevard, I'm going to take you through a few slides that show how they would use the form-based code and how it affects the final building that would occur on the site. The first thing, as we said, is they would go and figure out which district they're in. In this case, it's the Boulevard District, the dark blue or navy blue area that's identified. The second thing that they would do is determine from the sheets what kind of building types are allowed on that particular area or in that district. In this case, Main Street commercial block buildings would be the type of building that they would be permitted. Going through the regulation sheet of the code, they would go through and find out what types of uses are allowed on the various floors, as you see illustrated here. They would also go through and figure out where the building has to be placed on the property. And as I said, that's a very important part of form-based codes because that environment and that relationship to the street and to other buildings around is very important. And as you can see here, being as this is a corner site, they would have to wrap that building around the corner to ensure that building effect and that feel is maintained. So using the information, they could create a building that has this kind of form to it with parking in the back. Once they have that basic layout from a site plan standpoint, they would then go and look at the massing and roof requirements, and they would incorporate those into the building form that they've created. And as you can see, it doesn't limit, their ability to have creativity. They're mixing, in this kind of example, several different roof types, but the heights and other things are within the parameters of the form-based code. They would then look at how the windows are to be placed, how any kind of projections are included from the code. Those are intended to create the kind of physical design and the public realm that we want to see within our downtown. And as I said, it's very easy. It's all included on the one sheet. They take this information, and you see before you, using that information, this is how they could come to a design of this building. Is it the only form they could use? No. There are different heights and different ways they could approach it. A form-based code often is better than a conventional zoning code in some cases because it does recognize the effect of the market and what's available. And what can be built economically within an area, at the same time, improving the public realm and meeting the design requirements that we'd like to see. That's very briefly the rundown on the specific plan. From a standpoint of your action, we are asking that you certify the environmental impact report that was prepared for the plan, and that you approve the general plan amendment for the downtown area. also introduce the ordinance that would adopt ultimately the downtown-specific plan on the downtown area, the 140 acres that I've noted. I know I went through a lot of information very quickly. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I think this is a very good step and a welcome step in finally implementing a long-time vision for our downtown area. Oh yes, the Planning Commission did review this back at their meeting in August. They voted to recommend all of these actions to you with the unanimous vote of the members that were present.
Any questions? Okay. City Clerk, any communications?
No communications.
We have one speaker card from Mr. McLernan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Merrill McLernan. My business address, 759 West Lancaster Boulevard. It's right across the street. I've been involved in developing this code. I'm in some of the pictures that he had 2 years ago. In the end, it's a great thing for downtown. It creates a way for us to improve our downtown district, and it doesn't limit me as an architect. I still have freedom to design. My clients have freedom. And me as a business owner, I also have freedom on how to use my building. So there's a lot of good things here. It's just a template. It's a guide. So in the form-based code, I like them. Anytime I approach them, I still have a lot of flexibility, but we can turn the city into something we want. And it does lead us in the right direction as a city in the long term. It may take 5 or 10 years for downtown to really develop the way we want it to, but by approving this, it can happen over time as economics demand it. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's close the public hearing. Any discussion?
I have a comment. It's great. Staff has just done a wonderful job to get us to this point. I know it's been a number of years that we've talked about it, and at first when we initiated it, there was some resistance to the community, just like it was in Pasadena when they were looking at changing their downtown. And I think by the community involvement and staff involving the community, I think the public is excited about it. It's going to be a destination spot rather than just a shortcut from 10th Street West to Sierra Highway. I think it's going to just really invigorate our economy and our downtown, so I'm very supportive of it.
I think the Lemon Leaf is a destination spot.
I eat
The
there
day
quite
it
often.
opens its doors. I love the concept of the city outlining what we want the end result to be and allowing the property owners and the architects, as Mr. McLernan said, using their imagination and finding the best and most creative and imaginative way to get there. I think that will allow our downtown to be imaginative and vibrant and really be the destination that we've always known it could be.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt the resolution number 08-80 and also introduce the ordinance number 906.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Let's vote.
I need one more.
There's only 4 of us.
There's only 4.
Right.
Mine's lit.
Mine's lit. Mine's lit.
All in favor, say aye.
Do it again?
Aye, because, yeah.
Okay.
Do it again? Okay.
You want to try it again?
All in favor, say aye.
There you go.
There we are.
Unanimous with Mr. Mann abstaining.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I might warn, I'd like to thank Brian and his staff did a wonderful job in leading this up. I think Lots, the Lancaster Old Town site, did a great job of providing support, and I think even our vice mayor, if I'm not mistaken, was the chair of the Planning Commission when this kicked off. So this has been a long time coming, a lot of support from the community and elected officials, and I think this is a really good day for downtown Lancaster.
Thank you.
Mr. Ludicky, do you see any other opportunities in the city where we could use form-based code besides just downtown?
Yes, I think they're out there. And I think that's something we'll be looking at as we go through our general plan revision effort, where there might be appropriate locations for that same approach.
We also have a Design and Architectural Commission now that will be looking into that.
Okay, new business. Mr. Williams, did you have something for us?
I have one more kind of ministerial thing to bring to you this evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. You adopted the budget for the city of Lancaster in June, and that budget identified a certain amount of money that would be set aside for the Antelope Valley Transit Authority, AVTA. Each year for the last 3 years, we have made a specific point of bringing to the council information about the AVTA budget, since it is a joint powers authority of not just the city of Lancaster, but also the city of Palmdale and the Los Angeles County unincorporated area here in the north, in the Antelope Valley area. Each of us, as a jurisdiction or as an agency, contributes a certain amount of money each year to the operation of the AVTA, and that money then is leveraged by the AVTA staff through federal, state, and other grants to actually bring it up to what in 2008-2009 is a little more than a $30 million budget. For that amount of overall service and transit operations, the City of Lancaster's share has been determined by the budgeting process of the AVTA to be just under $1.5 million. So we are coming to you this evening bringing the basic information about the budget. Fortunately, we do have the other Randy here with us this evening, Mr. Randy Floyd, who's the Executive Director of the AVTA. And if you have any specific questions about the budget, what's been presented to you is sketchy at best. I'm sure he has much more and better information to share with you than what is shown here. We do believe, though, and city staff, that the operations of the AVTA is a vital service to the community that needs to be carefully administered, and we think that the AVTA staff works hard to make that happen, and in turn the oversight of the two members of your council, Vice Mayor Smith and Councilwoman Marcus, provide to that governance, if you will, of the JPA. Nevertheless, there are some important things like the overall ratification would probably be a better word than adoption of this budget, since the budget has been adopted by the JPA board and now we're bringing it back to you. I'm pleased to say that when we brought to the council our recommendations for 2008-2009 city budget, it does have sufficient funds to cover what is identified in this budget to be as the operating funds coming from the city of Lancaster. If there are questions that either I can address for you, I'm sure Mr. Floyd would likewise be more than willing to come forward and answer any questions. Otherwise, that is the end of my presentation, and I do recommend the council adopt or ratify, as you may choose, this particular budget.
Thank you.
Sir.
There's no speaker's cards.
No speaker cards. Any communications?
No communications.
Okay, is there a motion?
I have a couple comments. Mr. Floyd has just been doing a wonderful job. I think he's, at the time that he took over the AVTA, he's been handed a handful of responsibilities of cleanup, and he's been working very close with our staff, Barbara Boswell, and also with Palmdale and the LA County, the other agencies that are part of the JPA, and he's doing a great job, and I think we're moving in the right direction of being fiscally responsible. So very supportive.
Good. While we have you here, and my mother's in the room, she's brought to my attention that in the senior citizen areas, that when a bus is late, we end up with senior citizens out in the weather at 105 degrees, and that it becomes a health issue. And I'm wondering if you could look into, is there some kind of procedure we can have for those specific areas where we know that seniors are using the buses, that we have some more rapid response when a bus is broken down or there's some type of delay, so that we don't have this situation. If it be alerting them, if it be having another bus standing by specifically for it, whatever the procedure. But when she brought it to my attention, it made sense, so I'm bringing it to yours. Thank you. How was that, Mom? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Well, I'll move that we adopt the AVTA fiscal budget of 2008-2009.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I need one more.
My fault that time.
Okay. It's unanimous? Okay, now we come to council agenda in Section 8. I want to turn this over to you, Sherry. And we've made a lot of progress, and it's something you should be proud of, and so I don't want to steal your thunder. Okay?
We had our press conference this morning, and we were very excited about, we're almost there. We're almost ready to sit down and let these people take a very important role in the Section 8 Commission. And I will go ahead and announce those people that are here tonight in the audience, and we'll ask you just to raise your hand. Brett Banks, Gene Gaynor, Larry Grooms, Leroy Halley, Risa Shepler. Excuse me, it's Lisa. Yes, it is Risa, isn't it? Like Lisa, kind of like Marcus and Carl. Okay, we won't go there. Tim Sturdivant and Perry Watkins. I don't think he made it in. He had a little tumble on a motorcycle, and I understand he's okay. Is this Dad? Okay, I wondered. He's okay, right? All right, he's just bummed up a little bit, and all right, well, we look forward to having him on board, and we will do that the 23rd. There were several things that were mentioned this morning. The first is development of an ordinance that addresses chronic nuisance properties that we're real excited about, that is going to go hand in hand with the Section 8 Commission. And we're going to be looking to do more things like this. This will hold the landlords and tenants accountable for tenant violations, creating a two-pronged attack on both tenants and landlord violators. The section project, which is already underway with Palmdale, which we're very thankful for, will work towards effectively taking over Section 8 program administration locally. And the third project is this Commission's plate will produce a good neighborhood guide. That's going to be really important, that neighbors know exactly where to go and get assistance in resolving neighborhood disputes. We're real excited about it. I'm so anxious to get started with this. The city staff and the city manager has sat down, and also the mayors of Lancaster and Palmdale have sat down. They've worked together. It's a group effort, and we're just excited to get it on board and get it rolling. So I appreciate those of the commission being here tonight, and let's get it going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that'll be on the agenda next week, is that right, to approve the commission?
September 23rd, yes, to nominate and then ask for appointment.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Marcus. Also, I want to announce that Greg Haynes, Greg, you want to raise your hand? Greg Haynes is going to be the mayor's representative to the Architectural and Design Planning Commission. He will sit with staff. He will not have a voting. He will not be a voting member, but he will be a resource for both the commission and for the mayor to. I'm sorry. What did you say? No, don't tell me. I never know what you're going to say. And the reason for this is because we are going to be changing the building code substantially, and I want a builder that all of us can trust and rely on. And Greg Haynes is the best one I know, so that's why I'm asking him to do this. Okay. Thank you. City Manager, you have any announcements?
No, sir.
City Clerk, any announcements?
This is the time for non-agendized items from the floor, from the public. You'll find speaker cards on the back table. We ask that you fill them out completely and as clearly as possible. That way, when staff or the council wants to contact you after this, we will be able to read the cards. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. When you approach the podium, please notice there are 3 lights. The green light comes on when you begin, the yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds left, and the red light comes on when your time is up. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. Following this procedure will allow for a smooth and timely process of the meeting, and we appreciate your cooperation. State law does prohibit City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the City Manager. To help our meetings run smoothly, we respectfully request that when you are called to the podium, to please leave all personal belongings at your seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, speaker cards, we have Tom Delaney. Okay, before you start, no, never mind, go on.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to talk about two items, so I got to do it quick in 3 minutes. First item I'm going to talk about is 869 in the City Code, Section D, which I believe should be struck from the record. It is in violation of Article 4, the 4th Amendment, 14th Amendment, Section 1, and also in violation of California Civil Procedure 1822.50 through 1822.57. Next item on the agenda goes to Councilman Cilio on the Courage and Dedication Award. Back in March, when I knew Councilman Jeffra was not going to be in charge of this program anymore, I asked him who would be handling it. And he said that Councilman Cilio would be handling it from here on out. So I asked him if he would nominate for Profile in Courage USA Private George Delgado of Palmdale, who gave the ultimate sacrifice on Easter Sunday, 3/23/08. Not having heard, I sent another email to former Councilman Jeffra now, if anything was going to happen on this. And he said, well, you better get a hold of Terry Crosby, and she'll get a hold of Councilman Cilio. So I called Terry Crosby, and she said you would get the message, but I got no call back. So then I sent an email directly to you, Councilman Cilio, asking if this award would be handled. No response. What say you?
I wasn't aware that the Courage and Dedication Award was falling on my shoulders, but if you will send me another email within the next few days, I'd be, with some contact information, I'd be happy to talk to you and see what we can put together.
Are you saying that Councilman Jeffra didn't know what he was talking about?
I can't speak for Councilman Jeffra.
Councilman Jeffra is no longer on the council, and he's not the mayor, and I'm the mayor. And
I understand that.
Well, let me finish.
Just the mayor.
Let me finish. I will take over this matter. I will appoint whoever I need to appoint to fulfill it, and why don't you get back to me in 2 weeks? Okay.
I should be back here in 2 weeks?
Or you can call me.
Okay.
I return my calls. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It should certainly be a award from the city and not just from a particular council member.
It is from the city.
Yes. Okay. I like the idea. I'll look into it. Veronica, I'm sorry, I can't read the last name, nor can I pronounce it.
I'm going to make you learn that.
Okay. All right. Let's sound it out. I'll do it phonetically, and I'll learn it next time I see you. How's that?
I'll bring you a candy if you get it right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, give it to me.
Muyo.
Muyo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. I'm here actually to speak with Ms. Marcus. I met Ms. Marcus last week at the special meeting, and I found that it was very, very important for me to understand what she had been, if you will, brow-bashed at the last meeting in regards to the English-speaking information. And we had very interesting conversation. Originally, I was very against what I understood she was saying, and my understanding, I want to make sure that people are clear on this, because I've spoken to a lot of people and I don't think they're really clear. The importance of the ability to speak English. The I have met with somebody who works with CASA, who is a court-appointed specialist that works with abused children. And one of the things that they frequently come upon is that the children are being held back in school because the parents are refusing to teach them English. The children are not ignorant. They just don't have the ability to speak English, and therefore it's affecting their education. Another thing that I believe I understood that she was talking about was the importance of being able to be bilingual in this country. We do have a huge Hispanic citizens in here. Sorry, I'm prepared. The importance to speak bilingual, my lack of ability as being Hispanic and not being taught how to speak Spanish, has kept me from obtaining many jobs. And a lot of the people that I see are in desire of county assistance because they're held back because of their lack of ability to speak English. Their Spanish can actually be an asset, but they need both of them in order to succeed. And the other thing would be the cost effectiveness for the government. There's many translators that are required. There's much extra paperwork that is required because of the fact that people refuse. There are many people who refuse to speak English. And being Hispanic, I'm often ridiculed for not speaking Spanish. Is that correct, my understanding of what you were talking about? Because from what I've heard from a lot of people, it was all about prejudice. And after taking the time to speak with you, I found that you were far from that. And how the people understood, I'm up here today because I wanted to clarify how I understood it and make sure that everybody else understands where she's coming from. And that as a Hispanic, originally I was very much against what I understood. But because, and I don't know if many people have actually come up to you and spoken directly to you to ask you where you're coming from and being opposition, I did that. And in doing so, I think that there's a lot of value in what she had to say, and I really don't think that you should put it on the back burner. Okay?
I appreciate you coming forward and do clarify that. And not too many people who have been in opposition have actually called me or talked to me about, where are you coming from? Basically, it's because what I had said before is we live in the United States, we live in America, and I think we're losing some of our identity in that area. We know that America, the United States, is a melting pot, but we know, and several of you actually have come to me and said, in my family, I believe it was, you said, can't think of your name right now, but you told me that your mom and dad spoke German, right? Right, but they wanted you to learn English.
My mother knew High German, but
right.
my father was not allowed to be spoken.
Right. As I said, that my husband speaks Spanish, and my husband's family is fluent in Spanish, but they use English when they're out in the public. What we do at home, we want to highly regard the language of our family, of our background, just like we do everything else, our food, our traditions. Those are held very dear to all of us. But when we're in the United States, I think there's something wrong when we make a phone call, an 800 number, and it says, if you want this message in English, press 1. There's something wrong with that. And that was where I was coming from. I was not coming from pointing fingers at anybody. The other thing was that I wonder why there's such a push on the Spanish language right now. And part of that is that people who are not teaching their children how to speak English, that to me is the one language that is globally unifies us all. And yet we have a presidential candidate that said that we need to learn Spanish and that our children need to learn Spanish. And I'm confused. And I think there's a lot of Americans that are confused with that. So it was a statement. It is on a back burner. I do appreciate that you did come to me, Veronica, and you asked me, what did you mean by this? Instead of just, yelling at me or sending me an ugly email. I really appreciate that. And we will address that at a later date. Thank you so much.
One of the things I would be interested in looking at I read in the paper this week about the tutoring program that volunteers are doing to help people read. And I'm wondering if we couldn't work on doing something like that to help people learn English. And perhaps even do it both ways. Because I just don't know what is available out there. But why don't you talk to us about that later? Okay? I mean, it seems to me this would be something that we should be using city facilities for if we had volunteers to do it. Sure, come on back. That'd be okay, wouldn't it?
One of the things that was very surprising to me that I even heard, which I shared with Ms. Marcus, was that, as you see, my last name is French. And it's very French. I have actually had the city government change my last name to M-U-N-O-Z, refuse to speak to me in English, hand me Spanish papers because of, and as I quote, the color of my skin. So it really goes both ways, because I was really offended because as an American citizen, I feel that it's important for the government to address us first in English and say, do you speak English? But I wasn't even given that choice. Literally to have my last name slaughtered, as I'm sure you get very irritated about. It's a whole reverse thing that they expect because of why they were there, or who I was, or that I look Hispanic, that I have no ability to speak English, and I found that very offensive.
Thank you. Richard Hecker.
Greeting council members. The reason why I'm here, as you know, is I'm concerned about the proposed development across from Quartz Hill High School. I think it's a bad idea. But specifically tonight, I wanted to address you and point out, I don't know if you've read in the letters to the editor or heard from other people, it appears as though someone is collecting at the various Walmart signatures saying that they think it would be a good idea to have a Walmart across the street from Quartz Hill High School. And having had conversations with you, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I want to point out that to attain your goal, to increase the city tax revenues, to have more money for the security of the citizens and for police bodies, shuffling customers from one Walmart to another Walmart in the same city is not going to help you attain that goal. And I'm sure the purpose of the people gathering these signatures, at some point they want to bring them before you, before the Planning Commission. They want to show you them. I just want to point out that moving these customers within the city is not going to help you attain your goal. All it's going to do is just accomplish what I'm afraid of, which is damage Quartz Hill High School and increase the risk that those students are going to have there. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Like I said, I'm sure whoever's gathering them, they're going to bring them before you at some point. And when that time comes, if you look at them seriously and you recognize that and you see that's all it's accomplishing, you'll be able to give it the proper weight those signatures deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hecker. Kathleen Morgan.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I apologize for my attire. I was going to go home and change, but I didn't have time because of what I'm going to tell you right now.
I like the Angels.
I'm glad. Veronica and I were just at a county facility, and we witnessed something that was very disturbing to both of us. A mother walked in, probably about my age, maybe a little bit younger. She had 2 teenage daughters with her, and she went to the information desk, and she was trying to get help. And one of the employees there began asking her, where were you all day? What were you doing all day? That right there, to me, was like, that was wrong. That was not his place. But she didn't really answer him, and he kept harassing her to answer him. And he said, what were you doing? Watching TV, watching Scooby-Doo all day? What business do you have coming here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon trying to get help from us when you should have been here at 8 o'clock like everybody else? And the mother tried to step in. This was directed at the teenage daughter. The mother tried to step in, and then he started verbally abusing her, saying, "Excuse me, was I talking to you? Do you make it a habit of, getting in other people's business?" To which I was aghast, because that's exactly what he was just doing. But anyway, they both walked out, or there was the two daughters and the mother, they all walked out, and they were very upset, and they looked like they were about to cry. And so after they left, he started addressing all the people that were behind us, berating them for coming in at that time, and they had no business doing that, and calling them Paris Hilton, Christina something lookalikes. And anyway, they came back, and we saw them, and we saw that they were upset. So both of us had gone over and talked to them and saw that we saw the whole thing go down, and told them that we would be willing to go in with her and speak to the supervisor, which is what she came back to do. So we were in the process of filling out the paperwork, and then both of them had gone to the bathroom. When they came back, we found out that this guy was bragging about the fact that he had made them cry and that they were in the bathroom. So I don't know what you can do about this, but we filled out paperwork. I mean, one of the other employees had said that this had happened before and it had been addressed before, but he was still there. So I don't know, maybe, you can help us with this issue, maybe help this young lady, or I don't know what you can do, but I know you care about the citizens, so I thought I would bring it to you.
It takes a lot of courage to come in and do that. I appreciate that. Mr. Bozigian, could you help her at the end of the meeting? I would like the supervisor's office to make contact with her and see what can be done about this, okay?
Yes, I'll talk to you right afterwards.
Thank you.
No, I've asked the county numerous times to turn over all the county functions to us, but they keep refusing. So,
Just going to say, is this one of those examples of a county department that doesn't do a good job?
Barbara Mazels.
I didn't think you'd recognize me.
How could I not recognize you? I'm still having nightmares from the last time you were
here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a Section 8 person. Some of the new people that are in commission, I'm sure, aren't. Okay, here's what it's all about. I wanted to thank you. You weren't there at the breakfast. You left before I could speak. I want to thank you for those 12 people who have committed abomination by using county funds and making an embarrassment of all those that are honest and on Section 8. They deserve, those 12 out of 3,600 families in Antelope Valley, to be taken out of the program. But there's a bigger need, and I come to you for that. It isn't just Section 8. It's all the tenants who are renting a home in the city of Lancaster. And this is why I come to you. What has happened is the city has a permit, I understand, in order to lease property, a single-family dwelling. But it doesn't go enough. It doesn't go enough in the fact that what's happening is the landlords are taking the money, not paying the mortgage. The tenant is getting a notice from the mortgage company that they have to leave because the property is being foreclosed. I sent to you a suggestion that the city request a letter of accountability stating whether the mortgage is current and the owner has maintained payments in a responsible manner. That the license with the city of Lancaster will contain the sentence, owner guarantees to maintain the mortgage during the duration of the rental contract with leasee of property at such and such address, Lancaster, California, and the zip code. Said property will be maintained in a reasonable manner as required by health and safety and municipal codes. In this, that the the owner of the property must have water to the property. He must have screens on the windows. He must have a hot water that does function. If he guarantees that he has an AC unit, it must work. And that's why I suggest on behalf, because I know you're so smart, and I can only be as smart as you, that in order to help the average citizen, you see, I've already talked to Michael Antonovich, and I've got Section 8 people covered, because that's a federal grant. And you steal from the feds, you're talking to the FBI.
You were doing so well. Come on, let's stay nice.
Hey, you know.
You got me convinced. You got me wanting to help you.
I've given you a break today on this issue.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, but I think you'll find that this is really, could help, because it would protect the city from unscrupulous landlords. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Any question?
No, I actually, can we turn that off, please?
Shush.
When I was in high school, they turned the water off on the house we were living in.
Yeah,
because
it's against the law.
They thought it would be an easy
8.
way to evict us. And so I lived in a house for 3 months without water, and so I think...
I have when I'm poor.
Yeah, I think this is a
and I wasn't
terrible
on Section 8.
So, Mr. Bozigian, I'd like you to take a look at this, see what ordinances we have in play, and also, when we do the guidelines for neighbors to deal with, problems in their neighborhood, perhaps we put some section in this. I think this is something we'll definitely look at.
Well, the whole thing is, the landlord has a right to say, you're going to pay for the water, I'm paying for the electricity, or I'll pay for the water and the electricity, but you have to maintain the grass. And then, because we live in a desert, the code comes back, only twice a week can you water the lawn, but then
Wait a minute, that's a different issue. We'll deal with that.
This is just,
No, you're on a roll.
Pretend.
I know. I've been there.
Okay?
Thank you.
But I hope this helps you, and I'll talk to you again about the primary English.
Thank you. Greg Gregorian.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council.
How are you?
Fine, and you?
Good.
I'm Greg Gregorian, and I'm an owner of Palmdale Medical Supply.
Palmdale what? I'm sorry.
Palmdale Medical Supply.
Palmdale Medical Supply, okay.
During our business hours, I have a lot of practice to go to our patient houses, AV hospital or community hospital. I've been in wound care facilities, and I've seen a lot of patients suffering with multiple health condition. And during to talk with the doctors and nurses, they asked me if I can do something about this matter, to open legal cannabis dispensary for the patients who legally using medical cannabis. So I don't want to say this is proposal. It just I'm thinking to help those patients in that world. And I've seen what I've seen, and I really start believe that. I'm not a smoker or anything, but I really believe in that. So with your permission, council members, I'm trying to get that license and open that dispensaries in Lancaster. And all I'm asking to consider is this manner, and I want to fill it up and apply my license and wait either your permission, either denial. That's all.
Mr. Bozigian, perhaps you can help us here. What's the status?
I don't know the status of the particular case. This issue came up about a month ago, and we provided council with a fairly detailed report on the state of allowing these kind of businesses in cities and such. I don't know in this particular case. We could have staff look at it afterwards.
Okay.
Well, I know Palmdale don't have such a code, but in Lancaster City Hall, they tell me nobody says you cannot do it. So that's why I'm in a meeting over here to let you know.
Okay. We have talked about it, and one of the issues we want to address is it medically necessary?
And so, I can't give you a date as to when we'll set this on the table and take a good hard look at it. But it is something that we're not going to sidestep, that we will take a full... Would you take the city attorney's cell phone and remove it from him, please? And look at it. I mean, I do want to talk to some pain management doctors and find out if we do have people out there that their pain could be alleviated with this. I'd like to know that, but I'd like to know it from the scientists. And if it turns out that that's the case, you'll have a supportive mayor. If it turns out that it's a ruse in order for people to legally sell marijuana, I'd be upset about that. But nonetheless, if it's the law, and we'll look at it. And all I'm saying, and I don't want anybody getting excited about this, is that we're going to look at it, and we're going to look at it from an intelligent, scientific point of view. And if it's something that will improve our community and the lives of the people in our community, I'm not afraid to do it. And I think you've seen that this council really isn't afraid of anything. But it's going to have to be an intelligent decision based upon real information. And so we'll look at that, okay? Thank you.
I know there's lots of patients, they go down below, and some of them they don't have, they cannot even drive or go. So, okay, well.
We'll talk to some pain management people and get the real information. Okay.
Won't care to.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We've got some more cards. Okay, Cleo, your call. You want to go now or you want to go last?
No, I'll go down.
Okay.
I can breathe.
Thanks.
Okay.
No, Cleo. No, Cleo. No, I'm sorry. You only get one card for the public comment section. So you got to choose. And I don't know if that's appropriate or not. I'll look at that. Perhaps we should have a situation if you want to address multiple issues, but I can't look at it today, okay? I will look at it by the time we meet again to see if maybe we should adjust that.
Okay. At the Valley Central Way Walmart and the AV Fair, patronage permissionary signatures for the proposed Walmart Supercenter across the street from Courtsville High School were collected. To my knowledge, no other Walmart development in the Antelope Valley, and we have many, has ever felt the need to gather signatures. So why is this one different? Maybe because they know building across the street from a high school is a bad idea. They do not care if they are creating a haven for truancy, since it is the parents who will have to pay the fines and take time off from work to go to court. They do not care if it's a 2-mile bottleneck on Avenue L that the delivery trucks and patrons would have to share with the residents and students. They don't care if students participating in sports would be subject to the damaging effects of diesel exhaust. So, just who is the perpetrator for this signature collection? It would be pointless for Walmart to cannibalize their own store sales by sending patrons from the current store to shop at another Walmart store. But if Walmart can get the zone to be changed from residential to commercial, then they can make a bundle of money without even having to build a thing. The city of Lancaster should be worried if Walmart is guilty of anything more than giving consent for signature gathering, as this may indicate they plan on abandoning the Valley Central Way store in favor of a newer and bigger supercenter. And will Lancaster get stuck with the demolishing of the abandoned store? The other potential signature gatherer is the developer, who, if they can push this proposed project through based on signatures of people who don't even live in the neighborhood and currently shop at supercenters that are closer to their home, then they will make money because they'll be building the commercial center. When they're finished, they'll move on to the next project without a thought as to what happened to the former residential neighborhood. If there really is a need for yet another supercenter, then a better location could be easily found. The land across the street from the prison is for sale. I saw the signs. And Avenue J, unlike Avenue L, is already owned by Lancaster. It's already wide, multiple lanes, and delivery trucks can easily drive down it. Walmart bought the lot across from the high school knowing it was residential. And as a council member so famously said, they have the right to roll the dice. And if they're out the money, they're out. Walmart could build homes there instead and offer the homes at a discount rate to their underpaid employees.
Thank you. You know, I hear that councilman wishes he never said that.
Huh?
I hear that councilman wishes he had never said that. Robert Yap.
Mayor and Council, my name is Robert Yap. I live here in Lancaster. I just wanted to elaborate on the lady that came up and spoke about the so-called English only. And Mrs. Marquez never said it was English only. I believe she proposed it was going to be an official adopted language for our city. And I just wanted to, I know she's backing down on this for the meantime because of a full plate, and I just want to let you guys know, and her as well as that, when she's ready to take that plate back up again, we're behind her all the way. There's a few things I started thinking about, some arguments and some logical reasoning behind the whole thing. The last meeting I was kind of upset I wasn't here. I saw what happened. I had to watch it on the video, and I was kind of perturbed that people would imply the council and yourself, Mayor, and Mrs. Marquez especially, being racist. Adopting a language of English as our official language is not racist. It may be patriotic too, but also it has little to do with race because people are not born speaking Spanish. People are not born speaking English. They're born not speaking anything yet to be taught. As well as blacks, Latinos, Asians speak multiple languages. And it has nothing to do with her race. It has what you do, how you're brought up, and what you can speak. But I also want to address this. Also, more importantly, it's a public safety issue. What do people do in our country when they dial 911 for help? Are they guaranteed they're going to have somebody speak their language? And if not, are they going to sue the city or sue the agency involved for not having somebody speak their language? I mean, how far will this go? I also see it in the workplace. A personal experience of mine was working with an engineer who was assigned to help us out. We were technicians, and the guy, he spoke English, but very, very influent. It was very choppy and hard to understand. And what happened was I noticed more than one time with other workplaces I worked at before, other employers were, as they're speaking, trying to communicate, people are getting frustrated for not understanding what he's saying. When you ask the person to repeat himself, he gets offended that he has to go on and repeat 3 or 4 times what's being said. And then you have competition in the workplace. People have barriers they don't want to cross anymore. I don't want to talk to that guy. I think he said this, so I'll go pull this lever. You blow something up or electrocute somebody or do something that hurts somebody, and those things happen all the time. Also, it's an academic issue to speak in English, as the lady before mentioned. Why is it fair for us to go to a college, a collegiate level, and take a class where the difficulty of the class is far more increased because the person who's teaching can't really communicate on the level they need to be on? I mean, mathematics is a prime example. I don't know how many math teachers I've had that were hard to understand. Also, too, it's wasteful with the street signs and the DMV handouts they print out for people to read the books, manuals. And if English also could be used to unify the country as well as our city. And it would be a common ground. People will at least have the ability to talk to one another. They can understand one another better, where they're coming from. Instead of having, well, he speaks Spanish and he speaks French, I don't even talk to those guys. That's it. But that's a couple of things I wanted to propose, and when you're ready to take it back up again, we're all behind you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yap. Diana Beard-Williams. Diana, I didn't see you out there. I was afraid the rapture came and I was left behind.
I know that we're not allowed to approach you without permission. I would like
if you
to
could
give
just hand it to...
something. Who should I give it to?
Okay.
You'll get it back. Robert basically has said a great deal of what I wanted to say. At the very last council meeting, I sat back and I was really taken aback, and I had to take it all in when we got into a discussion of racism. And what I've given you each a copy of is something that I wrote for the Los Angeles Times that appeared in, if you look at the date, December 1st, 1994. 14 years ago, I used to write a lot of columns for different newspapers across the country. And I wrote a column, and it's called "We Speak English in L.A., Don't Apologize." And the reason why I wrote the column was because I was very upset that the city council had put out a bid to different newspapers and different organizations because they were publishing, or they wanted to publish notices. And we're not just talking about 2 languages. We're talking about Tagalog, Vietnamese, Korean, Spanish, Japanese. It had gotten out of hand. And I was looking at the price tag, and the price tag back then, we're talking about 14 years ago I wrote this column. Back then, the price tag was $500,000 to $1 million. And when you brought that topic up a couple of weeks ago or several weeks ago, I thought it was a perfect topic in terms of pride. I've been around the world. I've been to different countries. I can tell you some countries you go to, such as France, and I mean them no disrespect, but I have tried to communicate, and I have been slapped down. And my sister, who was fluent in French, would say to me, let me take care of it, because they get very upset if you butcher their language. It's a sense of pride with them. I do not understand why we can't have the same pride in the United States of America. We're not saying that we want to alienate anybody. We're not saying that we want to leave anyone out. And there's a paragraph in here that says, the route to mutual understanding among people is communication. And in America, English is the official language we use to communicate and transact business. Community leaders who constantly apologize for that, either through words or deeds, are foolish. They promote divisiveness, unnecessary dependence, and a false sense of security to non-English speaking people who perceive the apologies as a reinforcement of the notion that speaking English isn't critical or even necessary to their arrival. I personally know individuals who have been in this country for many years who depend on their children to translate for them. And their children will tell you at times that that is a burden. It is not an honor. They would love their parents to speak English, but there has really been no push because we worry about political correctness, and we worry about saying that we're not being sensitive, and we worry about being called racist. I'm a black woman. I know what racism is. I know most people in here who are different know what racism is. What you did wasn't racism. It was pride.
Thank you. Okay, I think that it's all the speaker cards. One other announcement, I'm looking for interns to be the assistant to the mayor. It's a 6-month position. You all know anybody that is interested, let me know. It's a great experience for college-age people. Can we accept applications at the city for it? Do it that way?
And just forward them to you?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. City manager, any announcements?
No, sir.
City clerk?
No, sir.
Did we already do that? I'm looking. You're supposed to keep me from doing that, Mr. Smith. Okay, any council reports? Any council comments? Ladies and gentlemen, our next meeting is September 23rd at 5 p.m., and we're adjourned.